Hold on, let me get this boost.
SMQBs, episode 184. Hey, Rooster, who you bringing to a bar this week?
I think I'm going to have to take Mr. Met to the bar. And on behalf of all the fans he represents,
Grimace?
tell him I was wrong. The Mets, turns out the Mets are not the Mets this year. The Mets are not choking so far. They've split in Philly and are looking pretty good. But I will say this, the Jets are still the Jets. And Sauce Gardner might need to change his name in the immortal words of Bill Parcells for all you losers from Long Island who love the Jets to Toast, because he's gotten nothing but burned yesterday from Justin Jefferson.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Pope, what about you?
Speaking of being burned, I'm taking our most recently retired GOAT, Nick Saban, to the bar.
Hmm.
Gonna ask him, what does he think about what happened on Saturday in Nashville, and we'll talk about that later. But they played him on the McAfee show 2 weeks earlier, talking about how Nashville, Vanderbilt was the only place in the SEC that was not tough to play, and that was just bulletin board material out the ass for a team that really had just been stomped on historically by Alabama. So I'm not sure what his motivation by that was. But lots of questions. I want to see what Nick thinks about the future of the program immediately right now.
I love seeing an academic school like Vanderbilt or Northwestern knock off some big SEC powerhouse bunch of guys who never show up for class and need a tutor to pass gym.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to bring a couple of passed off NFL former head coaches. One who's back being a head coach. I'm bringing Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury to the bar, and I'm feeding them all the drinks they want because I've said it for a couple of years now. Coordinators and coaching matters. And, Rooster, you've said it that there are these guys out there who shouldn't be head coaches and should stick to being coordinators. Well,
Cliff Kingsbury being
that
one.
Kingsbury is exhibit A of that right now, because he is calling just a great game. And his play call, I think his plays are fun. I mean, there's some really fun plays, tunnel screens and things like that I just haven't really seen a lot of that seem to be working. And then uh, Dan Quinn just seems to have, he's got the locker room. It's a little bit of a bummer because I always liked Ron Rivera and he talked about culture, but you're starting to hear guys say things like, I didn't even know what culture meant until this year. So Quinn, and a lot of people laughed at that hiring, but it seems like I think he does have a pretty good way with players. So those are the two guys I'm bringing to the bar. With that said, Rooster, let's jump into NFL Week 5 is almost in the books.
Yes, it is. And it's been quite a week. I mean, we're down to two now. The Vikings, believe it or not, are 5-0. Again, no one saw that coming.
Nope.
And Chiefs are playing tonight against the Saints and could be 5-0 if they hold off the Saints. And that's it. Last two undefeateds. I think a couple of big stories are, of course, still Jayden Daniels. Another really good game yesterday. Isn't this? Did you play the Browns earlier this year?
No, we played the
No.
Bengals.
Okay. But man, I mean, just looked solid, really solid. Some of those passes were beautiful. Um, he's clearly rookie of the year. He's playing the way Darnold played yesterday, which wasn't great. He may be passing out Darnold in the MVP race at this point if the Commanders keep winning. That's a great story. I think he's just tremendous. Another interesting story to me and kind of this podcast is two of the teams in our beloved NFC East overspent big time on mediocre quarterbacks, the Giants and the Cowboys.
What?
And It looks to me like maybe Danny Dimes may be taking a little step forward and Dak a step backward. What do you think, Pope?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, clearly last night was not Dak's best game. Two turnovers, two interceptions, and one fumble in the red zone. The interception was just, I don't know, when he's trying to hit CD in the end zone. Have no idea who he's throwing to. Neither did CD. But all that being said, when the money really counted, Dak led him on a pretty impressive drive and completed, the winning touchdown pass on fourth down. And Cowboys live to fight another day. But you're right. I mean, it hasn't been since he's got his 60 million. He hadn't exactly been blowing the doors down with great play.
Well, don't you think you're going to need to put up more than 20 points
Yes.
keep
Yes.
to do well this year?
Yeah. I mean, so they have the Lions. They have the Lions coming in this weekend. Lions. This is how embarrassing it should be for Jerry at home, where we've only, till this year we were winning all our games at home. We're the underdog to the Lions, 3.5 points. That's got to be an embarrassing for this franchise to be underdog to the Lions at home.
Maybe this
So
week
yeah,
slide into the playoffs and then don't lose any playoff games.
So,
The opposite.
so Pope, I got a question for you though, because a lot of the national media has been, and we're going to hear a little bit more from me about the national media later, but a lot of the story has been that Dak is actually playing great and that he's in a situation where he has to be perfect. And it basically, the national media is throwing everybody on that offense under the bus except Dak. What are your thoughts on that as a Cowboys fan?
well, I mean, it doesn't help, and I'll go back to this again because it's going to be a weekly punch for Jerry. It doesn't help that we have no running game now. Rico Dowdle actually looked okay last night, and they actually showed a little bit of form. But let's cut to what happened in the Bengals Ravens game when King Henry took the ball 51 yards, stiff arming whoever was in his way down so they could get a game winning field goal. A pressure has been put on Dak unnecessarily by Jerry's stupidity. If we had a decent running game and a threat, I think Dak would be probably more effective. But yeah, Dak has to be perfect because A, he is playing in the Dallas Cowboy media spotlight, which is extremely hot. And B, if he's not perfect, he's going to hear about it. So there's a higher standard for Dallas Cowboy quarterbacks. There just is.
But I don't even mean in that regard. I don't even mean that though. I just mean in general for that offense to work. In other words, that he's the best player on the offense, and if he's not perfect, you don't have any hope. I mean
I don't necessarily buy that because he was far from perfect last night. I mean, 3 turnovers himself, and they're still able to pull it out. I mean, CD Lamb is arguably the best talent on the offense.
He screwed me last night. So fuck him.
He doesn't have to play perfect for them to win, but he's got to play better than he has been, and certainly got to play better than he has at home. The last 2 times they got blown out.
Yeah. Hey, Rooster, I want to get you back in there so you can light Pope up on his Dallas Cowboys quarterback comment.
I mean, he acts like there's more pressure to be the quarterback in Dallas than, say, the Patriots when Tom Brady was there, or any New York City team, or the Eagles quarterback. I mean, come on. There's a lot of pressure in big city towns, the DC. But I also think that it's there's a lot of hindsight when it comes to Derrick Henry, and wouldn't that have been such an easy sign? Don't forget, this guy a few years ago had to have plates put in his foot, and
no question,
pretty much thought to be washed up. Big, huge, heavy guy, running hard with a messed up foot and ankle. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of teams who thought that was a big risk.
He wanted to play for Dallas. He wasn't that expensive. Jerry should have signed him, and if he didn't work, good Lord, then go back to Zeke, because I think we're paying him like $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bottom line is Jerry left Dak and CD without a running game, and that's a problem.
Zeke took a handoff yesterday and fell down without being hit. Did you see that play?
Who, Zeke?
Yeah.
Well, they were in this vicinity.
Yeah.
They're in his vicinity. What do we make of Buffalo yesterday? And particularly
Ooh.
Josh Allen, who went 9 for 30 with 131 yards and had a rating of 56.4.
Clearly concussed, should not
Yeah,
have left in the game. I mean, you said bounced off the turf twice. I
yeah.
can't believe he was allowed back in that game.
And they still should have won.
Still should have won. McDermott's clock management is horrible. Right?
Again. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, run
I mean,
the
they
ball.
have, yeah, they got the ball. The scenarios, they got the ball inside their own 5 with, barely any time left. Houston's got 3 timeouts. You gotta make them use their timeouts by putting the ball on the ground. Instead, they had 3 pass plays. None of them were even close to completion, and they burned off like 12 seconds. Kicked the ball. Houston had a nice return, 1 complete pass, and then a long field goal to win the game. I mean, that's all on McDermott.
He could have gotten that down to below 10 seconds and maybe even scored, the touchdown.
I guess Josh Allen could have completed some passes too, though, right?
Yeah, but like I say, I think he was probably his
Yeah.
pupils were the size of a saucer.
Rooster, we got to give you a second, man. The Giants.
Yeah.
What's going on
Where'd
there?
that come from?
They
screwed up their draft pick.
They're screwing up the draft pick for sure. But if you think about it, if they had a second kicker on the team, they could have beaten the Commanders. They might have beaten the Cowboys had things broken a little differently for them. Maybe they're not as bad as I thought, although I think that's probably wishful thinking. I think they're pretty bad. They're not as bad as the Patriots or the Panthers, but they shouldn't be giving up on picking number 3 in the draft quite so soon.
Is it that impossible to go from punting a football to kicking a field goal that these guys, I mean, this is because we've seen this twice now. We've seen the Giants not be able to even try an extra point because their kicker went out. And then yesterday, the Niners arguably lost that game because they didn't have a kicker in the fourth quarter. Is it really that fucking hard? I mean, come on. You can't tell me these guys can't get a couple reps in during the preseason and on the sidelines and just know how to kick a goddamn football so they can make a 35-yard extra point.
Hey,
Right.
how about that on college game day? You had the guy from Cal and he's in his Vans and he kicks a 35-yard field goal. Come on, how hard can it be?
I don't get this. What is the problem with these kickers? I mean, come on. That's pathetic. And it's cost 2 teams, 2 games this year.
Or you don't have somebody else who knows how to hold for a kick.
Right.
The kicker gets hurt, so the holder was the punter who now becomes the kicker, the place kicker. They have nobody else who knows how to hold. The guy puts the ball down flat instead of on its end.
I mean,
Cincinnati should have won that game.
Bengals, yeah, absolutely.
Ravens.
Yeah.
But I'm critical though of their play call management in the last possession in overtime because they got that fumble. They were on, I don't know, 35 or something like that, and they didn't even try to move the ball.
Yeah, but that kicker is money from that distance.
Yeah, I know, but whenever you have a 50-plus yard field goal to win the game, you don't usually just play for that. I don't understand. And Burrows had a perfect game. You at least have one maybe post or something out, get 8, 9, 10 yards, make it easier. You don't want to play for a 50-yard field goal by putting in positioning for your hash mark.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. What really good team do you think is in the biggest trouble right now?
I mean, Niners?
The Niners, I think the next week, the Niners is a must win against the Seahawks.
I think Cincinnati.
They can't go 2-4.
I think you got to say the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals, people seem to think that they're going to just turn it around and win a bunch of games, but I mean, they've dug themselves such a hole. I just don't know. I mean, they're Burrow's playing great and the offense, is efficient. But I mean, the other side of that is Burrow's playing great. The offense is efficient and they can't win. I mean, there's something wrong with that team, right?
Well, you brought it up recently. I think their coach is not great.
Yeah. You know his record against their division is like 8-31.
Ouch.
That's the record against the division since he's been
Terrible.
there. It's like 8-31. It's unbelievably bad.
But
How
how do you
about
explain though the Niners giving up 2 double-digit leads in the fourth quarter like they
yeah,
did?
and this has become a kind of a pattern this year where they're giving up big
Yeah.
late leads. Shanahan needs to focus a little more on defense, apparently. How about
Well,
Mike Tomlin wasting a timeout at the end of the game with the Cowboys, Pope? What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess his thought was, he wanted it was on fourth down. He wanted to see what the Cowboys were going to run out there, and then he called timeout. I don't blame him. It would have been a really difficult haul for them to get the ball back, with 15, 20 seconds or whatever, and the one timeout, and then try to complete a long pass, call timeout. I mean, they could have, but I understand Tomlin was probably thinking, and I thought the odds of the Cowboys converting on 4th and 4 were probably about 35%. I mean, I assumed that Pittsburgh was going to stop them.
I think this week kind of winnowed out a couple of the pretenders who early on had great 3-0 records, and people were like, oh, I mean, never saw the Steelers coming at 3-0 or the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Those teams are
Mhm.
starting to play back to the mean, back to where they belong. I don't understand the Seahawks coaching game plan against the Giants. Giants have had a terrible defense all year. Seahawks, when Kenny Walker is healthy, have a great running game, and they ran the ball 9 times against the Giants. Makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah. Let's see what else. What else from this weekend worth talking about? Is Bo Nix going to be a good quarterback?
Meh.
Verdict's out.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, are the Broncos really that good? We
I
don't
don't
know
know.
yet.
I
We
don't
don't know
know.
yet. I mean,
They win ugly.
they beat the Bucks. Then, who should have beat the Falcons. I don't know. I say it every year. I think it's true. There's just so much parity in the NFL now. Just so much, which makes every week that much more exciting.
Right. Yeah, it really is banana. I mean, it's just a bananas league.
And
It's just a bananas league.
don't forget we got the Jags off the snide. They finally won a game.
After we buried them and talked about how bad they were and how Trevor Lawrence is garbage.
They had to win that
At
game.
some point, they would
Doesn't
win.
mean they're any good. They still looked weird in that, even winning that game.
So in the spirit of if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Did anybody pay any attention to the Dolphins Patriots game? Can there be a more depressing game?
I couldn't even tell you who started at quarterback for the Dolphins.
Was it Huntley?
Chet?
I don't know. I think I think Dan Marino was next up if they had any more injuries. So
and until May starts for the Patriots, I have no interest in watching them either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I just don't know. I mean, are they going to start him ever?
I think they're terrified that he'll get killed behind that offensive line.
Behind the line, yeah. Well, we've certainly seen a lot of that in Washington. I saw a lot of quarterbacks' careers ruined before they got started by an offensive line play. So
I'll tell you one surprise to me so far in 5 games is the NFC North. They have 4 teams that have over 500 records. They're the only division in the NFL. And
right.
Is there a more surprising 3-2 team than the Chicago Bears? Go figure.
Well, in what way?
In what way? I mean, they were lottery number 1.
Yeah, but everybody said they were going to have. They had the best setup. They had all these weapons for Caleb. Caleb's a generational talent. I mean, I think they were. I think they're doing what you expected they would do. Now, Caleb finally had a kind of a breakout game this week. So I don't know. I'm not surprised by that.
I don't know. I don't know.
36 points, not bad.
I don't think many people had them beating the Rams last week, and certainly the Panthers are the laughing stock.
Well,
then,
the Rams are decimated, right? I mean, they don't have Cup, they don't have Puka Nakua, they don't. I mean, Donald's gone, obviously. I don't know. That team it's like Band-Aids and glue keeping it together right now.
but they
That,
could have easily won yesterday.
that kind of
Yeah.
goes to my point though about why next week is a must win for the Niners, who are 2-3. You've got the like Pope said, the North has 4 teams right now in playoff contention. The East is going to have at least 3 eventually. You know, the Eagles are going to get back on the winning way. It's going to be really hard to get the wild card in the NFC. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to have to win the division in the West to get in, I think.
Yeah. By the way, you know what team is? I don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't given this too much thought, but who's got to be in the worst situation is Cleveland.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, what are they? Deshaun Diddy just does. I mean, he is brutal. He
He's
is
terrible.
brutal. He had throws yesterday that, even from the stands, you could see they're just not NFL throws. They're so far off the mark. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 where he gets hit and something fails. I mean, we're talking about just throwing on the run. These NFL guys can do that, and he was just brutal. And I think we sacked him 6 times, 7 times, something like that. He was supposed to be a scrambler.
Bison, was that the worst performance you've seen of an opposing quarterback in person since Carson Wentz, the game that we all went to?
Well, that wasn't unfortunately an
he was
opposing
playing for the
quarterback, so
Commanders.
he was playing for us then. So that was a problem. That was a pretty bad. It was bad. It looked bad.
Watson on the sideline. You probably couldn't see it, but on TV, he just looks like he doesn't care. He could care less.
He's got his money.
Yeah,
He's guaranteed.
It's an awful situation in Cleveland. I feel
it's
bad
a really bad situation.
Browns fans.
All right, so we got to get to our locks. Who's got the locks from last week? And Rooster, you gonna walk us through those?
Yeah. So House remains undefeated. House and I picked the Vikings over the Jets and covered. So he is 5-0. Milk and Pope were also victors. I think all 5 of us could win this, depending on how you do tonight, Bison. Didn't you take Kansas City?
No, I had the Niners.
Ruh-roh.
Thanks for nothing, Sangs.
All right.
Yeah.
So 4-1. We went 4-1 because Milk and Pope took the Commanders, which was the weirdest line of the week.
Should have bet a mortgage on that.
Yeah, over the Browns.
I don't, man.
And so we'll have to have a House update us on the standings. He's clearly in first place. I have a feeling that Milk and I are in second, tied for second. So week 6, Pope, you're officially off the schneid, so you don't have to go first. Bison, who do you have?
I mean, I really want to take the Falcons over the Panthers, but I think I'm taking. I don't know. I don't like any of this. I think I'm going to take the Bears. -2.5 against Jacksonville.
Jacksonville plays really well in London from last year.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's a London game.
Yeah.
I looked at that one too, Bison.
I'm going to stick with it.
All right. Bears -2.5. All right.
I got the Texans giving 7 at the Patriots. I just think the Patriots are awful.
Yeah, that's the other one I was looking at.
I think I like that pick.
I know that's a lot, but I just don't think they're going to be that competitive.
That's a good one.
I'll tell you what, there are a lot of games I like this week. I like the Commanders getting 6.5 against the Ravens. I'm on board with the Commanders. I think they'll hang tight with them. They may lose that game, but not by 6.5.
That's just a goddamn disrespectful fucking line. That is a disrespectful fucking line.
That is going to be the game of the week.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that one.
How about the Bills? Only 2.5, -2.5 against the Jets, who can't beat anybody right now. But I'm going to stick with what I said. I think it's a must-win week for the Niners. I'm going to take the Niners -3 over the Seahawks.
That's going to be a tough place to play Thursday night in Seattle.
All right. And then did we get houses?
I did not.
I think he sent it in.
Let me look.
Let's see if I can find it. I don't think we got one for Milk yet. Milk is battening down the hatches.
Isn't his default just to take the Bucks?
So House has the Bengals giving 3.5 to the Giants.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. And I got to give you our parlay for the week. But first, let's report on a winning parlay from last weekend.
Yeah, baby.
If you took, where is it here? If you took, oh, I just had it. Hold on. If you took the Vikings -2.5 and the over in, I don't remember what game we had the over in. I can't see it here. Oh, there we go. The over in the Bucks Falcons.
Oh, Bucks Falcons, right?
Yeah. So that was we got that parlay right. Turned $20 into 72.89.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty good. And then here's the one I came up with for this week. I kind of like this.
Hold on. I'll tell you what I did. I put 50 on it and turned it into 178.46.
That was smarter. You had more confidence in it than I did.
Yeah.
So here's the parlay. We got a 3-leg parlay this week. Okay.
All right.
All right. We got the Texans -7 with the Commanders, the over in the Commanders Ravens, the over 52.5. And the Falcons -6.5 over the Panthers. That $20 wager will turn into $125.54 for you. So you got to take the Texans -7, Falcons -6.5, and the over in the Commanders Ravens of 52.5. All right. Anything else?
We'll take that
NFL?
$78 and invest it. See if we can make more.
Yep. Anything else on the NFL? Hope it was a bloody Saturday in college football. What the hell happened?
Saturday, Bloody Saturday. Is that the name of the song or something along those lines?
Something like that.
I wish our other SEC sycophant was here.
Homer was here. Yeah, I know.
But he would be having a great time because two of his arch rivals lost, Bama and Tennessee. I've got from our YouTube people, I've got the Vandy students tearing down the goalpost on the celebration of one of the more unlikely, and House called it. I'm not sure there's been a more shocking upset in college football in modern history. You have to go back pretty far, and I'm not sure.
Not of a number one team.
I'm not sure you
can
get. I'm just not sure you can get there. I mean, you know,
in 1925, Ohio Wesleyan beat Ohio State. Just FYI.
There you go.
There it is. And you were what, a freshman?
Oh shit! Ouch. Well done, Pope.
So Vanderbilt. I mean, the numbers going into this game are just amazing. Vanderbilt hadn't beat Alabama in 40 years. They were on a 23-game losing streak. They were 0 for 60 against top 25 opponents over a period of time. They got beat the last 3 years. Alabama total score was 148-3. There was no thought that Vanderbilt would pose any problem to the machine that rolled out of Tuscaloosa after dispatching of previous number 1 Georgia, or number 2 at the time, Georgia, last Saturday. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about how does a Kalen DeBoer team follow up a big win like that versus a Nick Saban team. And, people would say, Kalen DeBoer, you are no Nick Saban. Stephen A. called that this morning.
Well,
I'm not
Saban
sure.
even said it. Did you hear Saban on game day? He said, it was much easier to coach after a loss or after a loss like Alabama Georgia game than it was a win after it. He said it was always
Absolutely.
harder to get everybody back up. Saban said that. Maybe he was throwing a little cover for his guy.
Well, I mean, I think he said that before the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Before the
Right.
game.
But that all being said, the talent disparity between Vandy and Alabama was great. It doesn't justify what happened. Vanderbilt, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched, they outmanned, out physicaled and ran Alabama out of the stadium. 42 minutes to 18 minutes time of possession. I mean, this is the number one team. They outgained more yards than Alabama, which nobody would have thought. And then Alabama, they just lost their composure. I don't know if you saw the end of the game, but Malachi Moore, their two-time captain, fifth-year guy who came back this year to win a natty, he just lost it. He threw his mouthpiece and then he went up and he kicked the ball. And this is a captain. And, people are like, well, if he had done that for Nick Saban, he would have been stripped of that C immediately. And so what's going to be interesting is what does Kalen DeBoer do? I mean, you've got to give it to Diego Pavia. Nobody had ever heard of him until this week. Transfer from New Mexico State. He for whatever reason they could not solve him and their offense the way that they kept mixing things up. Pavia would keep the ball on RPO, and they weren't ready. I guess that's the bottom line. They weren't ready, and that's surprisingly a shock for people who follow Alabama football that there would be a team that goes up to Nashville and loses like that. So that was the first big, Titanic thing happened on Saturday. The second thing was on Saturday night in Fayetteville. Rocky Top goes in and gets knocked off by the Hogs. 1914 last minute touchdown for Arkansas. First time Arkansas had won against a top 5 opponent at home since 1999, which was against, ironically, number 3 Tennessee at the time. A big win for Sam Pittman, puts his program possibly, on the right direction. It's an inexplicable loss for Tennessee. Their, freshman quarterback looked like a freshman quarterback. I know we talked about him before. Maybe this guy's got potential Heisman talent, but he certainly wasn't showing that on Saturday night. And I don't know if you guys saw it, the last play of the game, when he needed to throw the ball in the end zone for a jump ball. He kept it and got pushed out of bounds, and there was no even attempt to throw the ball.
Of course, this is, the year where we've now got 12 teams going into the playoff.
Right.
So Alabama and Tennessee are, even Alabama, everybody's been waiting for Alabama to falter and fall out of the playoff and everything. And nope, they're going to still probably get in some way, right? I mean, they'll probably still find their way into the playoffs.
They should, but look, since halftime when they were up, when they were up 28-0 against Georgia, I think they pretty much thought at that point they were unstoppable, and just it went to their head because Georgia again, almost won that game. It took a miracle play by Ryan Williams to prevent that from happening. But Alabama hasn't looked good since they were up 28-0 against Georgia.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So yep. Have they been exposed to the standpoint they're not going to be able to turn it around? I don't know. I mean, they play South Carolina this week in Tuscaloosa. That shouldn't be. They should punish South Carolina for what happened this week, but they still have the tough schedule. They got to play LSU in Baton Rouge. They got to play OU in Norman. It's not an easy road to the playoffs for them. And the SEC, it's all chaos now, except for Texas, the non-SEC team now. Everybody has a loss. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Mizzou, they all have losses. And A&M. Let's talk about that. A&M beats Mizzou, crushes Mizzou. I thought Mizzou was overrated, but they really got exposed, 41-10. A&M, if you look at their schedule, they're going to be favored in most of their games all the way up until they play Texas at College Station at the end of the year, which potentially could be An undefeated Texas coming into a one-loss A&M. Can't even imagine the hype for that game. And then we dispatched a couple Big 12 posers. Michigan loses 27-17 in a rematch of the national championship to Washington. And USC, Lincoln Riley continues to stumble. USC loses 24-17 to Minnesota.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say USC and Big Ten?
Yes. Big
Ugh,
Ten.
ugh,
Yes.
ugh.
And this week USC hosts Penn State, who now is top 3 after all the other losses. And Lincoln Riley almost has a must win because the dogs are howling pretty hard right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the other upset, which was Louisville losing to my SMU ponies 34-27. SMU for the first time, they were ranked recently, but they've never been ranked as a power conference since the death penalty, coming in at number 25, and with probably the best chance other than Clemson and Miami to make it to the ACC championship,
Hey,
which is shocking in and of itself.
What about
Rooster, make a note. My SMU ponies, and we didn't hear anything about my Alabama Tide.
right?
Roll Tide. Hey, and then one game which you had to stay up late, and I did. I don't know why. What a college football day it was. The Cal Miami game.
Yeah.
Cal was up 35-10, guys,
By the
they
way,
lost.
Cal's first Atlantic Coast Conference game.
Yes.
There's so many punches that should be thrown right now. So many punches. So.
Pope,
But
are you
Miami should not have won. They had a
to,
targeting call that wasn't the good call back. What?
Are you trying to end your friendship with House, or you're not going to mention the Tulane blowout?
Did they play anybody of relevance?
They played Trent Delford's UAB team and beat them 71-20. That's
they put up
pretty
71
impressive win.
points. I mean, I think
they're 12-2.
Well, we were talking about Bloody Saturday. That doesn't really. I guess it's bloody for UAB.
Bloody for UAB and Trent Dilfer. That's
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be Alabama having to play Tulane. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we got. We got Texas at 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Penn State 4, Georgia 5, Miami 6. That's your top 6 right now.
Yeah, Miami should have lost the last 2 games. I'm not buying in on them yet.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, anything else on college?
Texas OU this weekend, big game.
Oh, that is a big game. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little MLB playoffs. We are in the thick of it. In fact, with a game going on right as we speak. I've got Detroit and Cleveland 0-0, top of the 8th, 2 outs.
Whoa.
Guardians are up in the series 1-0. Yankees up 1-0. And then we had a crazy day yesterday. The Phillies Mets game was bananas. The Phillies were on their way out, looking like they were dead. And you got some exciting home runs. Then it was just one of those crazy back and forth games. That series is 1-1. Padres Dodgers 1-1 after the Padres whipped the Dodgers last night. But here's what I want to mention about this, because it's been pretty exciting postseason so far, and I kind of thought about, like, are there really any surprises when you get to this point in the season? That the Yankees had the best record in the AL, and after 162 games, it was all of 8 games better than the last team that was in, right? 8 out of 162 games. That's the difference between the first team in the postseason and the last team in the AL. And in the NL, it's the same thing. It's the Dodgers at 98, and the Mets were the last team in with 89. So you got 9-game difference. I mean, these teams over that many games, these teams are equally matched. They've all got massive positive run differentials going in. So I don't know. I mean, is it really that shocking when you see these series are tight and that anything can happen? I don't think so.
Anytime I see the Mets not screw up, I'm shocked.
Well, that's a surprise. I think the big surprise was, and I forwarded this around to you guys, but the numbers, of course, the Mets made it because Pete Alonso hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th to take the lead. They were down 3-1 when Alonso hit his home run. Or I guess they were down were they down 2-1, whatever it was. They were losing when he hit his blast. But what's shocking about it is he hit it off of Devin Williams, who has the lowest ERA, a 1.66 ERA. Any pitcher who'd thrown at least 100 innings. His ERA plus, which accounts for ballparks, was the best in baseball. He had he gave up just 3 runs in 21 2/3 innings after coming back from a stint on the IL, and he's just a dominant pitcher. And for him to give up, that home run at that time was really, that's what's stunning about it.
Wasn't really that bad a pitch. Alonso just went with it. I mean, it was on the outside corner. It's hard to argue that's not a bad pitch.
No, that's right. So I don't know. I mean, these series are great, and that's what we should expect from them. I mean, I don't think it's surprising how tight these series are, and it shouldn't surprise anyone that the Detroit and Cleveland are tied 0-0 going into the bottom of the 8th right now. So we'll see what happens to that.
Well, I mean, we looked at this phenomenon last year, and it's been consistent since the wild card got expanded. You've got teams that are playing desperate at the end of the year just to get into the tournament, to get in as a wild card, and they have momentum, and they're able to knock off some teams that haven't, maybe been a little bit complacent because they won their division, well before the end of the season. A hot wild card team. I mean, you had 2 wild card teams last year. You had the Rangers and the D-backs. Are you going to have wild card teams again this year? Look at the Padres. I think the Padres are in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Does Detroit steal one, get that series 1-1? Do the Royals win tonight, take one from the Yankees? I mean, that game 1 was pretty wild too. Yep. So, anything can happen in these games. Keep watching them.
Game 3, Mets Phillies is going to be.
But to Bison's point, it's not surprising when you have a team as loaded on offense as the Padres, or a team with a starting pitching staff of the Tigers.
Right. That's
this
right.
team should do well. In fact, if I had to pick, I'd take the team with the better pitching staff.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, Phillies Mets, that should be a good series. Hey, House, stay in the fight, man. Stay in the fight. They play 9 full innings in these games. Sometimes they even got to go more than that. So don't give up on your boys. I got a vested interest in this. I'm with you this year. So, all right. Anything else on baseball?
Nope.
All right, who's got a punch? Does anybody have a punch? Oh,
I
got a couple. Oh, good. Go ahead, Rooster. Okay, I got 2, so I'll give one and then you give one. All right. Well, the first one, I just kind of want to punch the national media on this NFL season, because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of the Sunday shows, all the stuff. Man, the national media is really fucking lazy, really lazy. I mean, the storylines that they're pitching about different players, and I'm going to focus a little bit on Jayden Daniels just because that's what I'm most familiar with, but I've heard it with a couple other players. I mean, the idea that Jayden Daniels is just a scramble first quarterback, and that's why they're doing well, and eventually it's going to catch up. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from all these guys. I listened to a bunch of guys talk about how he doesn't look downfield when he's scrambling, and then I watched him break free from 2 linebackers and find Terry McLaurin for a 66-yard pass downfield. He did that 3 or 4 times yesterday. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the other ones that I was listening to and thinking the same thing. There was a lot of talk about Kyler and how great Kyler is and how fantastic he is. Hey, he didn't do shit when we played him. I mean, he kind of had a lucky throw yesterday to get that game where it ended up. But
he had a 50-yard run for a touchdown.
Okay, but I mean, to me that's more fluky. I don't know. I just think the storylines are very don't believe what you read in the media. I hate to sound like someone who doesn't trust the media, but the NFL, the storylines have just been really lazy in their reporting, and I don't know. I think they deserve a punch. Rooster, what do you got?
I think your man Jayden Daniels reminds me of CJ Stroud. I think he's
Yeah,
got those skills. And
and he might have a little bit better scrambling skills
yeah,
too.
right. But I mean, he sees
So,
the field and he's
mhm.
making some good calls at the line, and they're not just giving him one read; he's making multiple reads. I don't get that. I don't get that take on him that he's just a scrambler.
Yeah.
I'm going to punch Jimmy and D Haslam, and Deshaun Watson
Oh, good.
on behalf of all the really loyal Browns fans. These people are great fans, and they deserve better. Okay, so you made a stupid bad deal, and you signed this guy to a deal that's going to tank your team for probably 5 years. But your coach and your team proved last year you can go to the playoffs without Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson is proving this year you will never go to the playoffs with that guy at quarterback. Like we talked about last week and like Bison led off with, he's lost it. He does not have NFL quarterback
Mm-mm.
skills anymore. I can't explain why. He's just not putting in the time. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he just cashed the check and doesn't care. But for God's sakes, for your fans, start Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
You could start one of us, and it might be an improvement because Deshaun Watson is that bad. And it's just not right what you're doing there in Cleveland. Get him off the field. He sucks.
He is terrible. Get him off the field. Totally right. All right, here's my other punch. So I don't know if you guys heard this story. Um, Texas A&M cornerback Will Lee has a nickname. They call him the Blanket. Okay, and he's going up against Missouri. It's a pretty big game. I mean, I think Missouri was ranked like number 6, right, or 8, or something like that going in. It was,
9.
yeah, okay, top 25 matchup though. Big game. Missouri's, probably is ranked as high as they've been in a long time. So allegedly, the big receiver for Missouri, a guy's name Weiss. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Theo Weiss. So Theo Weiss gets to his hotel room, and there's a gift for him in the room, and it's a blanket with a note written from Will Lee that says, "Get used to the blanket. It's going to be for real tomorrow." That wouldn't necessarily be punchable material right there. That would be pretty good trolling and trash talk. Why it's punchable is now it's coming out that the A&M coach, Mike Elko, is telling everybody that the Missouri coach planted it there to get into his own player, to get his own guy fired up about it. I mean, come on, man. That's pretty weak. I don't know. Creating your own bulletin board material like that, and then your team gets fucking spanked like that. I don't know, man. Maybe come up with some other ways to motivate your guys. That seems pretty pathetic to me.
That just seems morally challenged.
Yeah, you got to punch coach, whatever I don't even know the coach's name there. Eli Drinkwitz, I think is his name. So, anybody have another punch? How about a lasso? Should we give House's last lasso?
Do it.
All right. So House sent this in, and it is a homer one, and he said he'd be accused of that, but that's okay. We'll give it to him. It's okay. We'll give it to him. This is a good story. Nick Castellanos got the winning hit, I guess, yesterday in this back and forth Phillies Mets game, and when the game finally ended, he went right over to his son who was in the stands there. And if you listen, I'd encourage you to go listen to the play call, because the radio announcer for the Phillies had lost his dad earlier in the year. And when he saw it, I mean, he just lost it. And the other two guys on the radio had to sort of get through the final call of the game. It's a good lasso. You got to go listen to it to get the whole the experience of it. But it's a worthy lasso, even if it is a Phillies lasso from House. So, but it's a good one. You deserve getting that shout out today, House. So.
Well, I like House's idea of giving a lasso to the Vanderbilt goalposts.
Yeah, that's right. The goalposts made it around town, I think, didn't they?
The goalpost went down Broadway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Down past the honky tonks and all the way into the Cumberland River.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And then they were recovered by the police.
Yeah. All right. Who's got a buzzer beater?
Pope, you have one?
No buzzer beater today.
I've got one.
All right.
This is the opposite of Deshaun Watson. Carlos Rodon of the Yankees a few years ago signed a 6-year, $162 million guaranteed contract and has struggled as a Yankee, especially the first 2 years. In fact, he didn't pitch much the first year because he was hurt, and then came back last year. But man, the guy's been earnest trying to get back and is embarrassed by his performance and was working his ass off to just justify this contract. And tonight's the night. He's got the ball tonight against the Royals.
Oh,
Time to show what he can do. His ERA is pretty good this year. It's like 2.69 or something like that. But I'm really anxious to see how well he does because he really wants this. And, 3-4 years ago, he was one of the top pitchers in baseball.
all right. That's a good one. I like that. Well, that'll be interesting to watch. All right. Anything else this week? Hey, Baltimore, we're coming for you, bitches. We are coming minus 6.5. Getting 6.5. Come on.
Whoa.
It's just insulting.
Those
we're
are
coming for you, Baltimore.
Fighting words for Plaxon.
That's right.
You Yankees, number 28.
Catch you later.